So you think you've heard it all. You think you've seen every twist and turn in this business. Believe me, I thought I had. I'm the guy who has seen everything. But then this happens. Out of nowhere, Opie and Anthony drop a bombshell that nobody saw coming. Not the fans, not the industry, and frankly, not even me. They're back. I'm talking about Greg Opie Hughes and Anthony Cumia together again, and they're bringing Jimmy Norton with them. It's like a bad dream you can't wake up from, or maybe it's the dream everyone was hoping for. It's hard to tell anymore. Let's be honest, the whole thing is insane. I mean, these guys hated each other. At least that's what they sold us for years. They went their separate ways, took shots at each other, and built entire new careers based on the fact that they were done. I've had my share of feuds, but this one seemed real. It had that bitterness, that genuine anger that you just can't fake. Or so I thought. The announcement came not with a press release, but in a way that was perfectly them. A chaotic, unannounced joint live stream that crashed the internet. It was pure, unadulterated mayhem, and it was a sign of things to come. The news spread like a wildfire. Phones were ringing off the hook. My guys were calling me, asking if I'd heard. Heard? I was watching it unfold live, just like everyone else. Opie looking a little older, Anthony with that same smirk, and Jimmy Norton stuck in the middle, looking like a kid whose divorced parents just decided to get back together. It was a spectacle. The whole world of comedy and radio stopped to watch. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a seismic event. It was a middle finger to everyone who wrote them off, and a confusing, glorious moment for the fans who never gave up hope. For a decade, people have been begging for this. They've been analyzing every little comment, every interview, looking for a sign. Most of us just accepted it was over. A legendary show that ended in a blaze of glory and corporate nonsense, just like so many others. But to see them sitting in the same room, laughing, it felt surreal. It was a moment that transcended radio. It was about partnership, about history, and as we would soon find out, about pulling off one of the biggest, longest cons in the history of entertainment. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about them and their infamous split. Here's the part that really gets me. The part that's so crazy, you have to respect it. During this big reunion spectacle, Opie and Anthony looked at the camera and dropped the real bomb. The feud, the years of public fighting, the bitter accusations, the angry podcasts, it was all fake, a work, a ruse. They cooked up the whole thing to keep themselves relevant and to keep the fans engaged. They admitted that after the SiriusXM firing, they saw an opportunity. Instead of fading away, they decided to create a new storyline, one where they were bitter enemies. It was a long-form piece of performance art. I have to hand it to them. That takes guts. To maintain a lie for that long, for over a decade, is next-level commitment. Think about the discipline involved. They had to coordinate behind the scenes to make sure their public attacks felt real. They had to fool their own friends, their families, and most importantly, their die-hard listeners. The fans who sided with Opie, the fans who sided with Anthony, they were all part of the show without even knowing it. They were feeding a narrative that the two hosts were secretly orchestrating. It's brilliant, and it's completely twisted. It's the kind of thing I wish I had thought of first. The reaction from the fan base was, as you can imagine, pure chaos. Some were furious. They felt betrayed, like they had wasted years of emotional energy defending one side or the other. They called it a slap in the face. But many others were just in awe. They couldn't believe they'd been duped for so long. The anger quickly turned into a kind of reverence. It was the ultimate radio bit, one that played out in slow motion over 10 long years. It cemented their legacy not just as radio hosts, but as master manipulators and entertainers of the highest or perhaps lowest order. This revelation changes the entire history of their breakup. It wasn't about backstabbing or a lack of support. It was about survival. In a world where radio personalities can disappear overnight, they found a way to stay in the conversation. They created their own drama, fueled their own publicity, and kept their names alive. They played the long game, betting that the eventual payoff of a reunion would be massive. And judging by the reaction on this day, June 26, 2025, it's safe to say their bet paid off in a huge way. It was a masterstroke of marketing disguised as a bitter divorce. To understand why this is so huge, you have to remember how it all fell apart, or how it fell apart. Back in 2014, Anthony got fired from SiriusXM over some tweets. It was a messy public execution. The corporate suits got scared, and just like that, one of the most successful shows in satellite radio history was blown to pieces. Opie stayed on, trying to piece things together with Jimmy Norton, but it was never the same. The magic was gone, and soon enough, that version of the show ended too. It was a dark time for their fans. The public story was that Opie didn't have Anthony's back. Anthony felt abandoned, like his partner of 20 years just let the company throw him to the wolves. Opie's side was that his hands were tied, that the partnership was already strained, and that there was nothing he could do. This narrative created a deep divide in the fan base. You were either Team Opie or Team Anthony. The arguments were endless. People dissected every word, every on-air comment, looking for proof to support their chosen side. It was a bitter civil war among listeners. Over the years, the feud continued. Anthony launched his own successful network, Compound Media, where he would occasionally take shots at his old partner. Opie had his own podcast for a while after leaving Sirius XM, and the topic of Anthony always lingered in the background. They did have one on-air phone call a couple of years after the firing, but it felt tense and unresolved. It seemed to confirm that while there was still some mutual respect, the damage was too deep. They made it clear that the Opie and Anthony show was gone for good. It was a convincing performance, to say the least. Now we know that performance was exactly what it was. All those moments that seemed so real, the anger, the sadness, the resentment, were part of the script. It makes you look back at everything differently. The whole saga wasn't a tragedy. It was a long-running story arc. It's a reminder that in the world of entertainment, you can't always believe what you see and hear. They didn't just break up. They crafted a meticulous, decade-long narrative of a breakup, which is a whole different level of showmanship. It was a bold, risky move that nobody else would have dared to try. So, what does this all mean? It means the wait is finally over. The big news, the headline that everyone is talking about, is that the Opie and Anthony show is officially returning. They confirmed it themselves. Sometime in late 2025, the band is getting back together for real. Opie, Anthony, and Jim Norton will be back on the air. This isn't a one-off special or a guest appearance, it's a full-time return. For fans of comedy and real, unfiltered radio, this is the biggest news in a decade. It's a resurrection. It's proof that some things are too good to stay dead forever. This return is important for a lot of reasons. In today's sanitized and overly sensitive media landscape, a show like Opie and Anthony is needed more than ever. They were dangerous. They were unpredictable. They said things nobody else would dare to say. Their humor pushed every boundary imaginable. Whether you loved them or hated them, you had to listen because you never knew what would happen next. Their comeback is a huge injection of chaos into a world that has become way too sterile and corporate. It's a return to the wild days of radio that many of us thought were gone for good. What can listeners expect from the new show? I think we can expect the same lightning in a bottle that made them famous in the first place. The chemistry between those three is undeniable. Opie, the everyman host trying to steer the ship. Anthony, the agent of chaos, the brutally honest cynic. And Jimmy, the hilarious, self-deprecating glue that holds it all together. They are older now, maybe a little wiser, but I doubt they've lost their edge. The world has changed a lot in 10 years, and I can't wait to hear their unfiltered takes on everything that's happened. It's going to be a goldmine of comedy. Ultimately, this is a win for the fans. They stuck with these guys through the breakup, through the solo projects, and through all the drama. Now, their loyalty is being rewarded. The new show promises to be a mix of the classic ball-busting, hilarious guests and painfully honest conversation that made them legends. It's a chance to recapture a feeling that many thought was lost forever. Will it be as good as it was? Who knows? But one thing is for sure, it won't be boring. And in this business, that's the only thing that really matters. Welcome back, boys. Don't screw it up.